So the Criminology and Criminal Justice degree, it's an LLM degree, so it's a master's degree. It doesn't qualify you, obviously, to practice as a solicitor or a barrister, but it is a master's degree in law. The School of Law at Queen's hosts the LLM in Criminology and Criminal Justice, and we are one of the School of Law is in the top 100 law schools in the world, so you can guarantee that you're going to get a very high quality of education and be taught by excellent staff. We also have the advantage of being able to work in an absolutely beautiful new building. The new law school opened only 4 years ago. You can see a bit of a picture of it here on the screen. We have absolutely fantastic facilities, both in terms of teaching facilities and study facilities, but also spaces where podcasts can be recorded, or we can invite guest speakers in, or we can host different forms of exhibitions, for example. So you'll be studying and working and socializing in a really beautiful and a really modern environment. Because Northern Ireland is quite a small space, we have a very close connection with the legal professions and the main criminal justice agencies. So that means we can provide very easy access, for example, to the Northern Ireland Assembly, the seat of power in Northern Ireland, to the High Court, the Court of Appeal, or, for example, for people who are interested in policing, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, or the probation services or the prison service. We have very, very good connections to local organisations and local agencies, and we often try to bring those personnel into the classroom to contribute to guest lectures, but also to allow students to do a little bit of networking as well. Just again to touch on some of our facilities, this is this picture you can see on the screen here is part of the law school. It's taken from the outside. It's a very open space, and £20 million was spent on that 4 years ago. We, in addition to our standard teaching spaces and individual offices where you'll have meetings with your tutor or your dissertation supervisor, we have study rooms for students. There's a social hub with a cafe. There's a one-button studio for doing recordings, things like podcasts or radio broadcasts, which we encourage students to get involved in. We have interactive teaching spaces with all the IT facilities that you could want. And we also have a moot courtroom, so a mock courtroom where people who are interested in mooting or who maybe want to try their hand at some of the skills that you could expect during life as a solicitor or a barrister can practice that. So in terms of the Criminology and Criminal Justice programme itself, what we aim to do is to get students thinking about why people offend, but also how the criminal justice system operates and how the state responds to issues of criminality and victimisation. Because we always have to remember that crime is a social construct. What we define as crime or criminality changes across different cultures, across different geographical spaces, and over the ages as well. So, for example, if you even think of the ban on smoking in public places, that's a criminal offence. But yet, previously, a number of years ago, you could smoke in a restaurant or in a bar as much as you wanted, and that was completely fine and completely accepted. But yet now that has been outlawed. So even in the most basic of matters, what we understand as crime can change. We also encourage you to develop a really in-depth and critical understanding of how the criminal justice system works and how the criminal law applies, both in a domestic, so in a UK-centred perspective, but also in a comparative context. And I think that's one of the strengths of our degree in Criminology and Criminal Justice, is that a lot of staff are heavily involved in working in and around the criminal justice system and the legal process in Northern Ireland, but also have a huge amount of comparative experience. So you'll be taught by people who are working on criminal justice issues in Colombia or in South Africa or in Israel or Palestine, for example, and they can bring that comparative experience to the classroom, both to enrich what you're learning about in a domestic context, but also to open up those doors for you in terms of maybe future study or work opportunities in the future. I think there's also a number of other really strong reasons why you might want to consider studying criminology and criminal justice at Queen's. As I said on the screen here, we have a really wide range of cutting edge modules available, and I'll show you what some of those modules look like later on. And we also try to teach and assess in a diverse way. So we have some online teaching, we have large group lectures, we have small group teaching, we do debates, we use podcasts, we do site visits. Sometimes you'll be assessed by essay, other times you'll write, for example, policy reports or blog posts. So there's a whole range of different teaching and assessment methods in there. We also make sure that we give you full support and training on research methods. As I'll tell you a little bit later on, 1/3 of your degree is a dissertation, so an independent piece of research. But you're not just left to your own devices. You are given full support and training on research methods right throughout your degree. And those research methods are important, I think, not only for the dissertation itself, but also thinking about jobs after you've graduated and what skills that you can actually say, yes, I've learned these skills, got all this research training, and I can apply that in a new job. There's also the unique experience of studying issues of crime and criminality in a post-conflict context. So as a lot of people will know, Northern Ireland had over 30 years of violence and human rights violations. And that has meant that issues such as policing or how the criminal justice system operates or the prison system operates, they are difficult and contentious issues in any society. But when they are bound up with conflict and human rights violations, they have an added intensity and a sharpness to them. So to study those issues in a post-conflict context, where that legacy of the conflict is all around you, provides a really unique studying experience. Now, of course, it's completely safe, but Northern Ireland is a post-conflict society, and the staff who you will be taught by have really strong links with local criminal justice agencies and community organisations who are working on these issues in a normal domestic sense, but also in a transitional sense on an everyday basis. And so we can bring that expertise into the classroom. You'll also be taught by people who have played a leading role in the transformation of Northern Ireland society and in the crucial elements of the peace process around policing, for example, or around dealing with the legacy of the past and responding to the needs of victims and survivors. So you're going to be taught by people who are actively working on these issues in an academic sense, but also in a very practical policy-orientated sense. And what they have done with that knowledge is not just restricted to Northern Ireland. Because of our experience and our expertise in these issues, staff who work on the Criminology and Criminal Justice degree at Queen's, they are often called upon to be experts in other countries around the world that are coming out of periods of conflict or have gone and done research in places like Argentina or Uruguay or Bosnia-Herzegovina. And again, that's really unique to get that diversity of experience brought right into the classroom for you on a daily basis. Don't forget, as we go along, you can pop any questions into the chat bar. And so that diversity of experience and that wealth of experience is reflected in our teaching team for the master's degree. So we have staff who are experts in policing, who are experts in prisons and including issues of imprisonment in a comparative international context. We have a group of staff who are actively engaged on issues around environmental change and climate justice. Other people are experts in human rights. We have a strong core of academics who work on the area or the intersection between crime and business and human rights. And we also have a group of staff who work on transitional justice issues and issues related to dealing with a contested past. So there's a real diversity of expertise in there. We also next year, as I'll talk to you about in a moment, we also have staff who work on issues around youth justice and issues around, for example, feminist analysis of crime or a post-colonial analysis of crime. So you will get a very, very broad teaching experience that allows you to follow the areas that perhaps you're already interested in, but also to explore new areas that you maybe hadn't thought of before or you wouldn't get access to through other routes. In terms of how we teach then, so you do a combination of core and optional modules. If I just flick forward to the next slide for a moment. To graduate from Queen's with a master's degree in Criminology and Criminal Justice, you need to get what's known as 180 credits, okay? And credits, this is all worked out for you. You don't need to worry about this. But you get credits by doing your taught classes and by doing your dissertation. And the degree is basically split into 3 chunks. So semester 1 is September to December, where you do a number of taught classes. Semester 2 is January to May, with the Easter break in the middle. And then from usually about the end of May or the start of June to the middle of September, that's when you complete your dissertation, your independent piece of research. So in terms of how we teach, as I said earlier, we use a combination of different teaching methods and different forms of assessment. But we also give you a choice of core modules, which you have to do, plus optional modules, where you can take up a new subject, or maybe you can develop your existing expertise, or to go deeper into something that you find interesting in the course already. Modules are usually 2 hours long, lectures are usually 2 hours long, and it's a combination usually of either lecturing or lecturing and a combination of lecture seminar type style of teaching. At Queen's, we also have a number of other extracurricular criminology orientated things that you might be interested in. So we have the Institute for Criminology and Criminal Justice, which is an institute organised between the School of Law and between the School of Social Sciences, Education and Social Work at Queen's, which organises a series of talks with leading academics and practitioners in the field of criminology and criminal justice. And students are really strongly encouraged to come along and attend those talks. We also have a podcast series in the School of Law, which you can find on iTunes. It's called LawPod. And this year we've developed a specific criminology stream within LawPod called Criminology Matters. And that's where we either ask students to maybe interview or have a conversation with a guest at the university who's maybe an expert, for example, on gender-based and sexual violence, or an expert on environmental justice. And that's published as a podcast. In some cases, we have students interviewing each other on issues of criminological significance. So if there's anything, I would encourage you to have a look at the LawPod series and have a look at the Criminology Matters substream within that. And you can see some of the really interesting topics that have been covered in that over the last year. And of course, that supplements what you learn in the classroom as well. And it gives you access to really well-regarded speakers that you wouldn't necessarily get access to in any other way. And also speakers who are talking about really topical and really cutting-edge issues. I see we have a question there from Finlay about how many days do students have to be in lectures. That's really difficult to say because the timetable can always change from year to year. So we don't publish the timetable until really quite close to the start of term, because as you'll appreciate, there's always changes to be made in terms of room bookings or staff availability or the scheduling of different modules. But usually most people would be in class or around the campus 2 or 3 days a week. Some people only come in for lectures or for dissertation supervision sessions, whereas other people actually like to be on campus every day and choose to study either in the study facilities in the law school or in the library. Evan, I see you've got a question there about the dissertation. I'm going to just come to that in a couple of moments. We'll talk about the dissertation in a wee bit more detail. So we'd already talked about the course structure. So in semester 1 then, you would do the following modules. So you'd have a module on controlling crime, a module on criminal justice processes, and a module on theoretical criminology. And you'd have a choice as to which modules. You would pick 2 out of those 3. So you'd maybe want to do controlling crime and theoretical criminology, or maybe you're interested in criminal justice processes and controlling crime. You'd get a degree of choice in there. You also start your research methods training in semester 1. So you have a short intensive module on research methods with a particular focus on how that applies when you're studying issues of criminology or criminal justice. In semester 2, then you also have, again, some intensive research methods training with the 2 modules, approaches to legal research and criminal justice and criminology methods 2, to set you up for the dissertation. And then we also have a number of modules that you can choose from. So we have modules on policing and crime prevention. We have a module on counterterrorism and a module on post-conviction issues in comparative perspective. We also should hopefully have a module on youth justice next year, and that will be a module that will be taught entirely online. But those choices are released further, a lot closer to the start of term. So to think about the dissertation then, as Evan said, this is complete independent study for your dissertation module, but there's no taught classes associated with the dissertation. You're expected to choose a topic or a broad area that we can work with you to refine into a research question and to develop your own project on that. But you're not completely abandoned. All students, when they submit a proposal for an idea for their dissertation, we match you up then with the member of staff who has the most expertise in that area. And they will conduct individual research supervision sessions with you. They will also provide comments on one of the draft chapters of your dissertation. So it is certainly a piece of independent work, but you're by no means abandoned and left to just do this on your own. You have constant support and backing from your supervisor, but also from the research methods modules that you've already studied. Some students, when it comes to picking their question, some people already have a really good idea of what they want to do. Some people have absolutely no idea. And either way, we can work with you. There's also a really, really broad range of topics. So even if you look at the screen, in the last couple of years, people doing this degree have done dissertations on migration. Some people have looked at state crime or post-colonial theory. Other people have looked at youth justice or environmental crime. Really, it's your choice. And the only caveat would be that we can provide adequate supervision. But as I said, we do have a huge amount of in-house expertise, and we have produced dissertations of really top quality over the years as well. To talk about some of the more technical or the more financial aspects of doing a master's degree then, if you're a home student, so if you're coming from Northern Ireland, to start in September 2020, your fee for the year is £6,140. If you're coming from the rest of the UK, the fee is £6,900. There are a number of scholarships that you can apply for. If you have a look, if you want to follow the link, we can email these slides out to you afterwards. And if you want to follow the link that's on the screen there, you can see some of the details about potential scholarships that are available to you that would maybe pay all or part of your tuition fees, and some will give you some money towards your living expenses as well. If you are an international student, your fees, if you start in September, are £16,900. Again, we have a number of scholarships on offer. And my advice to you would be to follow the link that is on the screen there, where you can read up about the Vice-Chancellor's Scholarship, which is a full fee scholarship where all your study fees are taken care of for you. There's also the International Office Postgraduate Taught Scholarship, which takes £2,000 off your fees. And there's an early bird award where you can benefit from a 10% fee discount, providing you pay 90% of your fees by a given date. So there's a number of different opportunities in there for you to think about different funding options. The photograph that you can see on the screen here, this beautiful building, that is the graduate school at Queen's. And the graduate school is directly opposite the law school. It's probably about 5 meters away. It's a beautiful old building that has been transformed into a centre of excellence for postgraduate students. In the graduate school, you can book a room for private study, or maybe if you're doing group work and you'll want to meet in the one place. But it also provides you with a whole host of different training seminars and different training schemes. Some of those training opportunities are directly related to studying, so things like academic writing or referencing. Other things are more to do with personal and professional development, and maybe the things that you would really want to highlight or develop as you go forward in your career. So that could be things like leadership skills or coaching skills. There's also courses and training programs that are designed to help you prepare for job interviews, or maybe writing applications for further study, for example. Of course, all of that is paid for in your fees. So I would strongly encourage you to have a look at the website for the Graduate Centre and see what facilities and what training courses are there that you can avail of. And if you do choose to come to Queen's, I would really recommend that you get involved with what the graduate school has to offer, because it really provides a very strong base, both in terms of your academic study, but also in respect to your professional and your personal development. That's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk through with you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat bar. You can also feel free to come back to me via email at a later date if something comes to mind. And you can see my email address on the screen there. Or what you can also do is go on the School of Law's website and just have a look through staff profiles, see what people's research interests are, have a look at the modules that they teach and the areas that they are publishing on as well. I see a question there from Daniel about the Masters in Law programme. I'm not 100% sure if there's going to be a webinar on that one. I don't teach on that programme. There's another person that is actually in charge of that programme. So I would encourage you, Daniel, to have oh, I can see Gemma's put in there that there will be a webinar in a couple of weeks' time, and she can add you to the list for that. So yeah, I think that's that question taken care of. Caitlin, you've got a question there about well, what's going to happen in light of the pandemic? Yeah, it's a good question. At the moment, the official word from the university is that classes will start in person on the 21st of September. But if necessary, for example, if the rate of transmission of COVID-19, or if the death rate isn't falling sufficiently and there are still social distancing restrictions in place, then we will switch to online teaching for a period of time. We're already planning for that. We had a staff meeting yesterday where we were discussing, how best we can really meet students' needs and offer that innovative and interesting teaching experience. So really, it's very up in the air at the moment. As I said, the expectation is that we will see you in person in September, but if something changed, then we would switch to online teaching. Fernanda, I see you've got a question there about whether it's possible to take modules on other programs. Generally, it's not, no, because you need to do a certain number of criminology or criminal justice modules to get the required amount of credit that you would need to qualify with a degree in criminology and criminal justice. So you would be restricted in that respect. What some students do though is they do what is called auditing other modules. So if you audit another module with the permission of the person who teaches that class, in the past we've had students who are really interested in a particular topic that's either not offered on their current degree program, or it clashes with another class that they're also interested in. They have gone and sat in on those classes, and they've been able to get access to the module guide with all the readings in it and to all the lecture slides. Now, they don't take the assessment and they don't get any credit for doing the module, but it is a possibility that if you're really interested in something, that you can still pursue that. You just wouldn't be able to substitute a criminology or criminal justice module for that. Daniel, and you've asked about the deadline for applications. We have a pretty long rolling deadline. Gemma can probably advise on this a bit better than I can, but we would generally still continue to accept students into maybe August and sometimes a little bit later than that. If you were looking for funding now, if you were looking for one of the postgraduate scholarships, obviously they have much stricter deadlines and it would be your responsibility to follow up on those. But just in terms of a general application, we are pretty flexible, and quite often that's due to the fact that people say, if you're coming from an undergraduate degree, and sometimes people are making a choice about whether they want to join the workforce or whether they want to do further study and what they want to study. So we recognise that and we're flexible with that. Peter, you've got a question there about job prospects. Yeah, so the LLM in criminology and criminal justice, it's a very interdisciplinary program. So you will find, for example, that students come to the master's degree from a variety of different backgrounds. Some have studied law before, some have done history, politics, psychology, or social work. Other people are doing it because they're already working in the criminal justice sector, and they're using it for further qualifications. And to an extent, that kind of governs or has a bit of an influence on what people do afterwards. For people who are already in employment and they may be using the degree to enhance their job or to get new skills, they typically go back to those jobs. Other students, some go on and decide they want to practice law, either as a solicitor or a barrister, and so they enter a period of further study. Others will stay on for further postgraduate research degree, a PhD. We have some students every year who will join various criminal justice agencies, so maybe joining the police, the prison service, or probation, for example, or maybe working in youth justice. Other students go on and they work in the voluntary sector or the third sector, so maybe working with human rights NGOs, maybe community organisations, maybe, for example, in the area of equality and discrimination, or women's groups or youth justice organisations, for example. And others enter graduate level jobs, so just a traditional graduate level training scheme that they might enter, and they use their master's degree to give them extra leverage in that application process, while other people go on to civil service jobs. So there's a really, really wide variety of job prospects out there. And I think what's really important is, always be thinking about the skills that you've got and the transferable skills that you could bring to a job. We have another question there from Olivia in terms of hours of independent study. We expect you independent study to be your full-time occupation effectively. Now, we do recognise that students often have to work or maybe have family and caring responsibilities, but we do expect you to be studying full-time. And I think, if you're really aiming for the best marks and you want to come out with a really good, strong degree at the end of it, then putting that effort into reading and research is really important. Finlay, you've asked, is there a webinar for youth justice? There is a youth justice degree that is hosted in the School of Social Sciences, Education and Social Work. You would need to contact them directly. It's not something that the School of Law deals with, although we will be hopefully next year sharing some of their youth justice modules, but you would need to contact the School of Social Sciences directly for that. Oh, okay, so we have a question there about how conservative Queen's is. I think I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I think I certainly wouldn't say it's a conservative environment. Northern Ireland society has changed a huge amount in the last number of years, both in respect to the conflict and the peace process and transition, but also in relation, for example, to women's rights, or in respect to gay marriage, for example. And we certainly pride ourselves on our commitment to equality and diversity and freedom of expression. So I definitely don't think that you could characterize it as a conservative environment. And certainly people that come to study issues like criminology or criminal justice or human rights tend not to be coming at it from a conservative perspective. I think that, from what I can see, that takes us up to the end of the questions. As I said, this is just the start of the conversation with your engagement with Queen's. If there's anything else you want to know about the course, of course, you can feel free to contact me. And we'll also get these slides and this presentation put up online so that you can come back to it and maybe follow up on any particular points of interest. But just to close, thank you all for coming today and for your interest in this degree. Hopefully, we'll see some of you here in September and you can enjoy what we have to offer. Thanks, everybody.